What is up, everybody? Just got about a 2-hour drive home, so I figured this is the perfect time to record the next video. I just kind of made a big decision here over the last couple weeks. So as per my TRT through my private clinic in Vancouver, after my last follow-up, I'd been about 5 months since I'd been on the TRT with the doctor at 80 milligrams a week, which, if you do any sort of reading about TRT in general, it's quite a low dose, which at first I was totally fine with. However, after the last follow-up appointment with the doctor and going through the blood work, I'd asked him, I'd be interested in upping my dose. He was kind of, as most doctors, a little apprehensive and asked why. I said, well, as someone that's had kind of low testosterone for my whole life, and at 80 milligrams a week, I'm still only in the middle of the range, and I'm curious to know what it would feel like to be at the top of the range, or just try it out. I feel like, and this pertains to anything in life, not just TRT, but there's no one size fits all, and there's no, take this is what you get, and you better enjoy it. If you go to fucking buy a pair of shoes, you try on multiple pairs of shoes, and you see which one fits best, and you go with that. Not necessarily looking for the most expensive or the cheapest or anything. You want to know what fucking fits best. And so the doctor that I was seeing essentially said no, to which I was like, oh, okay. I thought this was my life and my body, and I was paying you, and so essentially he said no, and then we're just going to stay with this. He did prescribe me DHEA, which is another hormone that's in the HPTA axis. Thought maybe that would give me a boost of some sort, so I did start taking that as well. Either way, I haven't really noticed any sort of any change at all with the DHEA, and it is a little peculiar that he prescribed that without testing for it in my blood work as well, because if I'm not deficient in it, you can get side effects from dosing it as well. So again, a couple little things that just kind of like annoy me, that again, part of this journey with TRT and optimizing my health is about me and liberating myself and trying to be the best version of me for myself. And I'm not doing this for anyone else besides that. And so to have someone kind of put a governor on me, or to just flat out say no to one of my requests, was quite frustrating. And so I guess what I decided to do was, basically, I'm likely going to ditch my doctor, my prescription, and just go self-prescribed TRT. My follow-ups with my doctor are only every 6 months, so I do have a little bit of flexibility here to kind of titrate up dose and then come back down to the 80 milligrams for my blood work, and then keep the prescription going. So I'll probably do that. My next follow-up's not till, I don't know, like February or something, so I'll probably maintain that for now, just for peace of mind. Obviously, it's always really nice to have a doctor oversight to get the blood work requisitions, to get the prescription pharmacy grade testosterone. I do feel a little bit more comfortable traveling with my needles and vials when I have that prescription paper with me. But nonetheless, UGL testosterone is extraordinarily easy to find, and it's not as cheap as prescription, of course, because it gets covered under benefits, but it's cheap enough that I've gone ahead and got myself some UGL testosterone, testosterone enanthanate, to match the ester that I'm currently running. It comes in 250 milligrams per milliliter as opposed to the 200, so a little bit slightly different dosing. But what I've already started to do is titrate up my dose. So from 80 milligrams a week prescribed to now running 200 milligrams a week. And I've also just kind of changed my administration. So from every Tuesday and Friday, so 2 injections a week. I've changed that to everyday injections just because the dosage is higher. You know, pinning 100 milligrams twice a week is just going to fire up your you know, your levels to a pretty super physiological level and then come back down. And so the first couple injections, I noticed I couldn't sleep because, you know, if I'm pinning Tuesday morning, you know, that was okay because I'm pinning at about 5 in the morning before I go to the gym. But then my Friday kind of 5 p.m. injection, by the time that ester starts to kind of flow through the body, you know, it's the middle of the night, and so I couldn't fucking sleep Friday nights especially, but I was getting all, like, I just wake up in the middle of the night fucking amped. And so that, you know, that wasn't really working that well. So after the first week, I've gone to everyday injections now, and downsized my needles as well, just because it's every day. I have got 1/2 inch 30 gauge needles, same that I use for peptides. I'm just going still intramuscular. Again, I'm pretty, you know, I'm not super fatty, so the 1/2 inch needles still can penetrate shallow intramuscular. It's a little tight. Got to push a little harder, of course, but it sure as hell hurts a lot less, especially if you're going to be pinning every day. So I don't know. You know, this is again just an update for myself mainly, but for anyone else that's, you know, on TRT and especially in Canada. But we all know how kind of stingy doctors are, especially in Canada, where they're, you know, they barely want to fucking blood tests for anything. My doctor only blood tests for testosterone and estrogen, you know, and you're paying this guy X number of dollars to oversee your hormone therapy, and he only looks at 2 fucking hormones. So little things like that just kind of get, you know, I just don't feel like I'm in very good hands. I feel like he's getting, the appointments are 5 fucking minutes long, looks at the blood work, says, how you feeling? I say, pretty good. He's like, awesome, anything you want to talk about? And that's it. If I didn't say I wanted to talk about anything, he would hang up the phone and be fucking 2-minute conversation, and I'd pay him $150 every 6 months for those follow-ups after the initial X number of dollar initial consult. So yeah, you know, there are other ways to get blood work. There are private ways to get blood work through naturopaths. If you have a general practitioner, if you have a family doctor, you can get it that way. You can go to walk-in clinics. There are private blood clinics online. There are not a lot of them. There's only one really that I've found that seems to be pretty good. It's not cheap. It's about $600 a year plus $100 per blood draw, and that's Naya Health. It does look pretty intriguing. I'm probably going to look into it a little more, but it's just kind of come out, so I don't think they're accepting everybody at this time, but you can sign up to kind of get on a waiting list, and so that could be part of the transition that I'm going to go through right now. Again, so I'm sitting at 200 milligrams per week now. I'm not going to lie, it doesn't feel that much different than the 80 milligrams I'm on. My resting heart rate has come up. Looks like I'm one of those people genetically that gets an increased heart rate through testosterone therapy, at least my doses. I've talked to, you know, plenty of people on the forums about this, and some people it doesn't seem to affect them at all, and some people it does. I've looked at kind of literature on this, and there doesn't seem to be a consensus. It just seems to be genetic. So the increase in testosterone is going to increase the parasympathetic nervous system, increase that kind of amped up feeling, which I definitely felt that a little bit, but I think the everyday injections have really calmed that. Like, again, that first week I was just like, whoa, but everyday injection now it's actually quite calm. Again, you're sitting at such a stable level. If you go to steroid plotter and kind of just track your pins to every day, you'll see, you know, your testosterone levels barely move. You know, get an increase in the morning and kind of decreases at night, just like your natural rhythm. As opposed to having these massive jumps and massive falls. So we'll see. I did get blood work last Monday, again, just to kind of make sure everything was in check. I had 200 milligrams a week. It was a little early, it was 4 weeks-ish. Everything was kind of spot on. I wasn't expecting anything to get it out of hand. That wasn't a hormone panel. Again, here in Canada, to get hormones covered, you either got to pay for it, or most doctors are very suspicious. So I just got a general blood work, mainly looking at hematocrit, hemoglobin, red blood cells, everything under the sun in terms of my A1C, my fasted blood glucose. All that stuff is tip top for me. I've done a really good job at trying to make sure that I eat as healthy as possible. Hydration is really key. Keep the hematocrit under control. Anyway, yeah, so that's the update for now. I have a surgery coming up in 3 weeks, with which I have to stop therapy altogether for about 4 weeks. But after that, I'm going to resume, probably back down. The 200 milligrams per week right now is kind of just to see how it feels. After the surgery, and once I come back on, I'll probably come back down to 100 or 120, just for like a baseline. I think that's, it seems to be the most common dose. So we'll see how I feel there. Ride that into the new year, until my next blood work. So yeah, if anyone else is thinking about doing the same, if anyone else is with a clinic and they aren't happy, there's so much research out there that can just help you self-prescribe TRT. As long as you just do your blood work, it's you get a reputable underground lab testosterone, which there are numerous out there, and you can buy a year's supply. It's spend a couple $100, get a year's supply of your oils. You can pick your carrier oils a lot easier this way. There's grapeseed oil, there's MCT oil, seem to be the most common. There's so many different options out there on the gray market, as opposed to going to a clinic, them saying, here's your fucking vial, take it and like it, and then you can't fucking do anything about it. These doctors that are gatekeeping your health, they're gatekeeping your well-being. And when it comes to TRT, when I did this, the thing is, if you're gonna go ahead and do this, it doesn't matter if you're on 80 milligrams or 800 milligrams, you're fucking shutting down your natural production system anyway. So why not try out different doses? There's some people that are gonna feel like shit at 200 milligrams, and there's some people that are gonna feel like fucking Superman at 200 milligrams. But if you just never know, then you never know. So to me, I'm a curious person. This goes for anything, it doesn't matter, but I always want to know. I always want to go from 1 to 10 and see where I land in between, And so this now kind of self-prescribing has allowed me to do that. Gives me a bit of freedom, and maybe there's certain years where I want to ramp it up, and maybe there's certain years where I want to ramp it down. So having that kind of flexibility to kind of go off your own intuition, go off how you're feeling. Maybe there's life kind of always is happening, and so being able to kind of dial in, your hormones or your energy, or whatever TRT does for you, whether if it's strictly libido based, and you can kind of dial that in to be a little bit better when you meet someone new or whatever have you. You know what I mean? I just think having full control of your own life is that's what's important to me, or at least that's what's important to me right now. So that's why I've made this decision, and probably in the next update I'll tell you how it's going, and we'll go from there. So you guys all take care of yourselves. Peace.